Today I'm going to talk about security, website security, and how it relates to WordPress sites and why it's so important optimizing your WordPress website for security. So WordPress powers over 25% of the websites out there today, and this means that there's always a large community of hackers trying to take advantage of and compromise the WordPress platform. But to that same point, it also means there's a large community of contributors always contributing to the WordPress platform, strengthening it, making it better, and making WordPress itself more secure. So to that point, the best thing you can do to keep your WordPress site secure is to update WordPress itself. Now, sometimes that's as easy as a click of a button, but other times you may have code on your existing website that may not be compatible with the current WordPress update or the current WordPress version. So my advice is seek out your developer, see what your best options as far as updating your current WordPress version is. My next point, and this is again one of the easiest things you can do, is use a strong username and use a strong password on your WordPress website. Now the default username is admin, and you never want to use admin as your username on your WordPress website. If it's easy for you to get into your website with a super basic username and password, chances are it's going to be easy for hackers as well, getting in there with admin or say password 123. So don't do that. Have a password 10 characters or longer or so with a bunch of special characters in there. Otherwise, hackers, one of the most basic ways they can get into a WordPress website is to run through a list of 1,000 passwords or so and keep forcing themselves try to get into your website. Now, along with updating WordPress itself, you also want to update the other software on the website. For WordPress, these are called plugins, and also the theme. So you want to update these, you want to make sure they're compatible with everything else going on your website. And in the first place, you want to make sure you're using themes and software plugins that are reliable. Say if you have software on your website that hasn't been updated in over a year by the developer itself, chances are that software could be compromised. So when you're initially looking for gallery plugins or social media plugins, you want to make sure they're reliable and they have constant updates, so that way when you're updating your site in the future, you never have to worry about hackers being able to get in and take advantage of the little pieces of code wherever they are on your website. So another thing you can do is use a website hosting provider that specializes in WordPress, and that can provide that extra layer of security for you, because they have a lot of stuff they can do on the server end to harden things to make it much harder for hackers to get in and take advantage of your website. For instance, if you're looking for a lot of the shared hosting providers, sell themselves for $4.99 a month. Now that sounds great, but a lot of the time what you're getting is a server that your website will be shared with thousands of other websites on one server, which means that if even one of those websites gets hacked into, that means your website is also vulnerable just because that one other website was compromised and taken advantage of. So you should look for a hosting provider that either has a dedicated server or that has managed WordPress hosting, where they have security specialists that know what they're doing and they can run automatic updates for you and make sure you have that extra layer of security. Now, if that's not an option for you, going back to the password side of things, there's software that you can put on your website to make it so you can limit the amount of login attempts when someone's trying to access your website, blocking them after 4 or 5 attempts, so that way they can't keep trying to go in with either a password list or a tool that can basically brute force them, try to get them into your website. So you can try that, or you can try a CAPTCHA, which again stops them after a certain number of attempts. or it verifies they're human, so that way you're not having multiple robots trying to get into your website. So to wrap things up, make sure all your software, your WordPress version's up to date, and make sure you have that extra layer of security, so that way you don't have multiple people just trying to brute force themselves into your website or your platform.